Today's topic, as board gamers, are we starting to have too much of the same?
Welcome to TABLEscraps, short discussions about board, card, and tabletop gaming, submitted by the viewing audience and discussed with the viewing audience.
Hi there everybody, and welcome back to another episode of TABLEscraps, the live streaming show where I discuss a topic about board, card, and tabletop games with the live streaming YouTube audience. As always, I'm your host, Chaz Marler, and our question comes from a viewer, and that question and viewer this time is Patrick Doss, who says, here's your topic. How many games of the same theme can a person own before it becomes a hindrance? For example, can someone own Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror, Elder Sign, Mansions of Madness, Lovecraft Letter, Arkham Horror the LCG, Pandemic, Reign of Cthulhu, and anything else Cthulhu themed and still have room for more? Or likewise, can someone own Age of Steam, Steam, Ticket to Ride, Railways of the World, Rolling Freight, String Railway, Russian Railroad, and anything else train-themed and still have room for more? These two examples beg the question, how important is it to have a variety of themes? Very excellent question there, Patrick, and one that comes up quite often, but always seems to garner a new response when we discuss it. So let's start talking about theme, and specifically how much of a variety of theme is really necessary in the tabletop gaming hobby. First of all, one thing about theme that I think is kind of a misnomer sometimes is some people say, there's too much of this theme. Like, for me, personally, that's zombies. And I'll get back to zombie themes in just a second. But I was thinking about it, and I came to realize that I think that if you enjoy a particular theme, let's say, for example, that you really enjoy the Cthulhu theme, like all the examples that Patrick gave us. Now, the Cthulhu theme, there's card games, there's adventure games, there's miniature games, and there's other games that are like Pandemic that are a completely different game with a Cthulhu theme applied to it. Now, a lot of people see that and see, oh, too much Cthulhu. There's just too much Lovecraft stuff. Another Lovecraft game? Nah. However, what I've discovered is I believe if you are someone who really does enjoy a theme, for example, Cthulhu in this case, it becomes easier for you then to see the variations in each of those titles. You will really see, oh, well, yes, the LCG plays completely different than Eldritch Horror, which plays completely different from the Pandemic one. And if you really love that theme and absorb everything about that theme that you can, I think you'll see the variations in those games, and you will see them as much more different than someone who isn't into the theme and all they see is just, oh, another Cthulhu game. How many times am I going to have to play Azathoth in all of its different incarnations? Getting back to the zombies, that's how it is for me. Zombies are okay, but I'm not into them. So a lot of the zombie games, even though I'm sure that someone who's into zombies and appreciates the theme more would see a lot of variations in those games, I look at all these zombie games, Zombicide, Black Plague, all the other ones that are out there. All of those, to me, kind of blur together, and I don't see the variations, and so therefore I get tired of the theme a lot quicker. The other thing about variety in themes is that I believe it can be a double-edged sword, because familiar themes do help to sell games. That's why there's so many generic fantasy. We've learned what an orc is, and what a halfling is, and what an elf is, and so those themes become shorthand for the narrative. If you have a really unique theme, that can be really innovative. However, the more unique the theme, the higher of the possibility that people are going to be standoffish, and it may prevent some potential people from playing the game because they don't quite know what to expect about how that theme is going to be applied to it and how that theme works, what its shorthand for the narrative is. So I think that the more unique the theme, the more potential that could be a double-edged sword as well. So those are just two examples of pros and cons of having a large amount of games with the same theme applied to them. So I want to know, what do you guys think? Let's turn over to the live stream chat and see what the people are chatting about on this topic. So let's start with Kabuki Kid, who says, personally, too many themes that are the same don't really bother me. I just buy the ones I like, so I don't feel overloaded with a certain theme. I just own the ones that I like the most. Do you feel, though, that you're missing out? Is there any of that completionist attitude? I know as board gamers, we talk about completionism a lot. Getting expansions or getting all of a certain set or sometimes even as all of a certain theme of a game. So I'm wondering, Kabuki, if you feel any of those impulses, even if you don't act on them, that if there is a theme like that you enjoy, that it's like, well, I didn't get this particular game in the theme. Am I missing out? So I'm wondering if that affects your ability to purchase the games in the manner that you just described. Jesse mentions, I think someone can own and enjoy as many games from a single theme or IP as they want. Where I think variety becomes important is if you are attempting to introduce new gamers to the hobby. Well, okay, but I'm not quite sure on which side of the equation you're coming from there, Jesse. Do you mean that it's important to have a variety of themes when introducing new games to new players so that they don't see it all as all just a bunch of zombie and Cthulhu games? Or are you saying the opposite, where it's important to have familiar themes, a bunch of Cthulhu, a bunch of zombie games, because if a new gamer likes those, there's a large variety of games with that theme they like available for them. So if you can, clarify that either in the chat or in the comments below, because I'd really be interested to see which side of that equation you're coming from. Mav Weirdo joins us with the opinion that I think the space theme is limitless. Ironic that's the theme of the infinite vastness of space that's limitless there. I kind of tend to agree with you. And the reason why is because space isn't so much a theme, a story, like, zombie invasion or the invasion of the elder gods in Lovecraft or stuff like that. It's a thing. It's space. You can be exploring space, you can be encountering things in space, you can be terraforming planets in space, you could be building space stations. So it's more of a thing, a concept, than a theme, perhaps. So I'm wondering if maybe when we're talking about theme, maybe we should start subcategorizing these things from, story-driven themes to concept-driven themes, because we may find that certain ones of those categories will lend themselves to a larger well of potential ideas to mine from. So interesting little point there. Trevin joins us to actually comment on what Mav Weirdo just said. Is space a theme or a location? You can battle, you can trade, you can colonize, you can explore. That doesn't sound like a true theme. Well, Trevin, you once again actually just explained something better than I just did. So I'll just leave that there and we'll continue on because obviously I agree with you completely. This time, I agree with you completely. Watch yourself. Keenan joins us to say, within those examples, Cthulhu, trains, pirates, they all have different mechanics. I think having a variety of mechanics is more important, particularly for new gamers. Oh, excellent point there, Keenan. Theme, I think, is just one part of the equation. The mechanisms underneath that theme are actually a lot of what drive the gameplay. So if the mechanisms of a game can stand independently of the theme, which personally speaking, I think to have a strong game, that is something that the theme and mechanisms have to work together but still be independent of each other. So if the mechanisms are strong enough, you could apply any theme to it. So yes, I absolutely agree there, Keenan. It's the mechanisms underneath that sometimes I think are more important in terms of the longevity of a game than its theme. And when you have that, then that allows the game to be a lot more versatile in that way. So absolutely agree, Keenan. Jesse also says, I think a variety in mechanisms is more important than in theme. I don't necessarily need to own both Blood Rage and Cry Havoc because mechanisms are similar, but themes are almost opposite. Well, there we go. Apparently this episode, the theme of this episode is that I will be employing the mechanism of sharing an opinion that you guys are about to in the chat. So you can see how they do mesh together. But again, yes, that more eloquently states what I just even now more eloquently states what I just said. So thank you, Jesse. I absolutely agree there as well. Let's continue on with Sasha, who says, Not sure if there's something like too much of a theme that you really like. While the theme is the same, the gameplay, the artwork, etc. vary. You'll have a different experience with each of your games. Not sure if there's something like too much of a theme that you really like. See, now it's a challenge. Now I really want to figure out, is it possible to overindulge in a theme and just have it be too saturated in someone's game collection? You know, really, if we were going to talk about the most used theme, it would probably be, I'm thinking, generic fantasy. And that has endured for decades and decades in every form of media. So, because of that, I'm going to cautiously, tentatively side with you on that, Sasha, and agree. But I'm still going to be keeping it on the back of my radar to see if I can come up with a way to oversaturate a theme and ruin it for myself. So take it as a personal challenge. Hammam joins us to say, I just bought Roll for the Galaxy, Race for the Galaxy, and Jump Drive. The gameplay variance doesn't bother me of them having the same theme. Okay, so there we go. Again, another kind of example of how the variety of mechanisms can really add a lot of enjoyment to games that have a similar theme and otherwise may have kind of blurred together because of that. So those are also excellent examples there. Roll for the Galaxy, Race for the Galaxy, and Jump Drive of 3 games with similar themes that really employ really nice and innovative mechanisms to keep them separated. Toyota Wolf, who joins us to say, I own all the Cthulhu games mentioned, and I don't find it a hindrance. I find it nice for variety. And there we go. That is a really good example there. I'm glad, Toyota, you chimed in as someone who really enjoys the Cthulhu theme as an example of, someone who's really into it. I think that is really something that can help improve the longevity and the kind of the market share or the viability of continuing to make games with very common themes. So, hey, very awesome. Next up is Sasha, who says, even with variations of the same mechanisms, you usually get a different experience because you have game length, number of players, and other details. They'll all vary, meaning that you can choose what you need at that moment. That's a very good point. That is a very good point. I had not thought of like the number of players being one of the variances, but you're right. Would you say, Sasha, that even with the same game, like let's take Eldritch Horror, for example, playing it with 2 players versus 6 players, would you say even with that, the player count with the same game would give you what you would consider a different experience? Or that trying to hone it down too much? Or is it still just the same game, same experience, no matter the number of players? I'd be interested to know your feedback on that as well in your experience. Plus the feedback of everyone else, of course. You're welcome to comment that too. You. Jesse just wants to add as well, is there such a thing as too many Star Wars games? No, there is not. Okay, well, I appreciate the comment, especially since you answered your own question, because when the audience answers their own question, it makes my job so much easier. Let's move on to the next comment here by Mav Weirdo again, who says, again, going back to space, space is a theme with broad options. Zombies are a narrower theme, may be part of the reason people complain about narrow themes. That's a really good differentiation between the two there. I like that. Next comment here by Eric, who says, if I enjoy a theme such as steampunk or kittens or steampunk kittens, that's the hook that will get me to try it all, while a theme I dislike will make me avoid it no matter how solid it is. Well, there we go. That's, I think, something that happens a lot in this. There's even sometimes games that will be themed one way and no interest at all, and then the same set of mechanisms gets rethemed, and all of a sudden I'm interested in it. So you're definitely onto something there, Eric, and I think there's even slighter variations that can cause someone to go from disinterested into interested in a game. So absolutely agree with you there. Let's go next to Kabuki Kid, who says, personally, I don't really like steampunk as a theme in games, but I will play such games with my group when they hit the table. I'm unlikely to ever own one, though. That is true, and I'm wondering if it's more because of just the group mentality of you're just enjoying playing with the group, and that makes the theme kind of secondary, or is it just kind of the approach to games in general, where theme doesn't have that much of an impact to you? I'm wondering if others would take the opposite approach in a similar situation, where even if there is a large group of people, they would actually bow out of playing with that group. And sit the game out if it's a theme they don't like. So I'm wondering what the consensus in the approach to that scenario is. So let me know that in the comments below if you'd like to. And let's wrap up here with another comment from Jesse this time, who says, yes, you want a variety in order to appeal to whatever that new gamer may like. Some people may be put off by a zombie theme, but would be okay with a farming or train theme. There we go. Nice kind of follow-up on Jesse's previous comment that I was wondering about the variety of theme versus the accessibility of the theme. So thank you very much. I'm really glad we got back to that comment to kind of follow up and wrap up that idea. Speaking of wrapping up, it's time to wrap up this episode, but if you have more questions or comments or ideas on this topic, I encourage you to share them with us, either on the Pair of Dice Paradise Facebook page or just in the YouTube comments below. And while you're floating around on YouTube, be sure to subscribe as well for more board game news, reviews, and commentary. Until the next episode, I want to remind you that episodes like this have been made possible by viewers like you who've been supporting Pair of Dice Paradise on our Pod Pledge fundraiser. Thank you for your support. It really does make a difference, and it's greatly appreciated. But until that next episode that we get a chance to share together, I've been Chaz Marler, who, along with the YouTube live streaming chat, have been serving up some table scraps. Talk to you again soon. Let's start the episode with Kabuki Kid, who says, personally, too many themes that are just say, like hedgehogs. Say that you just can't get enough games about hedgehogs. Hedgehog art, the life of a hedgehog, making a burrow, just everything hedgehog related. You can't. That was a stupid example. Why don't I just use Cthulhu, because it's right there sitting in front of us? Let me do that again. Okay, I got to get a screenshot-a-rooney here. Screenshots are cool. So is staying in school. 'Cause in school you can learn how to take screenshots.